through every time before my car hits the track, before practice, before a qualifier, before main, you know, before I let someone else drive my car. And it's real basic for me. What works is I set my ride height, and then I check my camber, and then I'll look at my toe in. And in that process, you know, it takes like 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. In that process, I'm looking over the whole car. I'm looking for cracks. I'm looking for stuff that's worn out. You know, that's when I kind of plan out, like, oh, hey, I need to do this, or I need to rebuild my diff at the end of the day, or whatever. And also,
you will see Paul do that every single solitary time his car goes on the track. Tonight and tomorrow. You change your camber length. That's going to affect your ride height ever so slightly, right? Like, so by going through that quick procedure, you change your camber length. That definitely is going to affect your camber. You know, it's going to bring your tires in or out or whatever. So by going through that procedure, the ride height, camber, toe in, check my slipper at least once a day. I make sure that both my car is the car I expect it to be when it hits the track, and that any changes I've made will be the result of the change and not the result of something else that I didn't anticipate. And that actually brings me to another thing. When we talk about setup, something that I had to learn, and it took me 4 or 5 years to really start getting it, is that everyone always says make one change at a time, make one change at a time, right? Like you've heard that. But sometimes to only make one change, you have to change 2 or 3 things on your car, right? And it takes, like, you got to think about it. But for instance, if I move the bottom shock position, right, in or out on the control arm, that not only changes the mechanical action that the arm has on the shock, but it also changes how much droop I have. So if I want to change shock position, I need to change shock position, but then I also need to rebuild my shock and add or subtract limiters to keep the droop the same. Or else I'm trying both things at once, and it's pretty confusing to figure out, you know, what actually happened. You know, did my car have more traction because it had more rear droop, or because I had a softer shock package, you know, on that inside hole on the arm? And so again, just getting intimate with your car and going through it before every run like that, you learn how to look at it. You know, you spot things that might be off or broken. You know, you get through and you plan out your maintenance, and you make sure that, like I said, every time it hits the track, it's deliberate. You know, I know what change I've made, I know what I'm testing, and I'm testing the thing that I want to test, not what, you know, not 2 or 3 things at once. Paul developed a habit a long time ago of taking notes. He actually had a notebook that he took to the track and he wrote in pen. Every single time the car went out on the track, Paul wrote down whatever changes he had made, and then when he came in, he'd write down the results, and he'd write down what he planned to do the next time. Now you guys are lucky, because you got these portable handheld computer devices that also happen to make phone conversations. And you will find Paul on his phone, same thing. Before he goes on the track, this oil changed to 2B instead of 1B, or whatever. Whatever change he's made is on the phone, and then he comes off the track, and the results go on the phone. And he does this every practice session, every qualifier, every main.
Here are my notes from Reedy race, right? Like I just came back from Reedy. So P1, car feels okay, tires are brand new. We had spec tires, so everyone, like, you had to run them in controlled practice. Tires are brand new, so whatever. 20.8 fast lap, 21 flat top 5. Remember I mentioned that 2/10 gap? Well, there's me, like, writing in my notes how that run was. There's more speed to get out of my car. Fast 2-wheel open guys are in the 20.2, 20.3 range. Spencer Rivkin has a 19.9. So that's me, you know, I'm at a big race. I'm in my kind of ultra competitive mode. I want to see where my competition is, where I'm at, that kind of thing. Round 2, 2-wheel drive, nervous, overdrove the first 3 minutes. Had 2x 20.4s, 2x 20.5s, so fast lap at 20.4 and a top 5 at 20.7, 3/10 gap. You know, I was pushing it a little bit harder that time. That's better. Tires are starting to come in. I've been cleaning, doping, and bagging the tires. So, you know, that's me talking about my procedure. Like, what am I doing? And I wanted, like, again, it was a spec tire. It was brand new, and I wanted it to break in as fast as I could. So I was putting that traction compound that they provided us on ASAP, and then putting them in a bag, just a J Concepts bag, and letting them sit,
you know, anything that you bag up is gonna like emphasize whatever traction compound you put on there. You know, like it's gonna like double the effectiveness of it, kind of. And I said, I think I'm going to dope about 1 hour before I'm up for round 3 to find the half second that's left. I think it's mostly driver. I just need to calm down and drive my car right. Round 3, I'm focusing on jumping. I need to find what makes my car land better and more consistently. I took out the top 2 I'm going to take out the top deck screws. So an RX-6 Cube, like it has this dual deck carbon fiber chassis, right? And what's cool about that is you can tune how much the car flexes by adding or removing screws, running braces, not running braces, that kind of thing. So I was out at Reedy Race, and I don't know if anyone watched that race, if you looked at the layout or whatever, but like the track was pretty much 180s back and forth with a whole bunch of jumps, right? And I looked at that layout, and like before I'd even run a pack, I knew that the most important thing was your car's jumping ability. Like I had to emphasize that over everything else, because like that was where you could make up time. That's where you could be fast. The corners were, I mean, they were 180s. You went into them, you pivoted your car, you came out, and sure, you can make your car rotate harder, but the jumps were really, that's what everyone was messing up on, and that's where the fast guys were really making up time as you watched them. So for round 3, focus on jumping, what makes my car land better, more consistent. I took out the rear 2 top deck screws of the car, and that just let the rear end of the car flex a whole lot more. That let it, instead of landing and wanting to bounce, the car would just land and absorb it. You know, the chassis would flex up and then kind of come back. What do you say? Car was great, 20.0 fast lap, so 4/10 faster, right? And my 3 laps for the seating round were 20.5, 20.1, 20.2, which put me 15th overall. In the 3rd round of practice, I finished 7 seconds off Brent Filkey, who TQ'd the last round of practice. You know, but those are the kind of notes. I mean, I just read you straight, literally what's on my phone. That's how detailed I'm noting those lap times. I'm noting those top 5. I'm noting, you know, what am I thinking about, and you know, I'm perfectly willing if I'm not willing to say to myself, hey, I was just nervous that run. Like, you know, my car felt okay. I just didn't drive it right. Like that's you know, if I try to, you know, you can't change a car to make up for your nerves. So as long as you're honest with yourself and you're honest about, you know, was the car good and I sucked? Was I good and the car sucked? Like, you know, navigating those waters is really important. And, you know, yeah, so just nervous. I think jumping's really important, so I'm going to do what I know to make my car land better. And it worked, dropped 4/10 and was in the B qualifier. So.
I've got a question.
Take notes.
You see a lot of new drivers when they're ordering their kits and they're getting their ESC and their battery, and when it comes time to actually order a motor, they're like, all right, so the lower turn the motor, the faster the engine, or the RPM.
Yeah, yeah.
Am I going to get the 2.5 motor or the 3.5? Now, how fast should you make your car? Like when I go to a track, one of the things I have on my radio is the exponential and the endpoints of the radio. Like you want your car to top out at a certain, you know, speed down the straightaway. You see a lot of guys, they've got too much motor, they're spinning out, they're overshooting jumps, they can't stop in time for the end of the straightaway. What's a good way to gauge how fast you should make your car?
This has to do with gearing as well.
Good. Yep.
Yeah. I kind of think, you know, it comes back a little bit to honesty, knowing where you're at. I am not a fan of, this is going to sound terrible because we're sponsoring the stock class, but I'm not a fan of 17.5. I think that back in the day, there was a difference between a 27-turn bushing motor and a hand-wound modified. I think that with modern batteries and speedos and everything, like trying to run a 30-tooth pinion and a 62-tooth spur gear is a little weird. I'm a fan of how they do it, like in the UK, where there's just two-wheel open. I wish we'd go to a setup. This is a little off topic for you, but I wish we'd go to a setup where at big races we just have like the pro class and the open class or something like that, you know, and not like you have to run this motor, because the power band of a 17.5 really doesn't make sense for a two-wheel mod car. Beyond all that, so you know, you're going to run mod, you're going to pick whatever engine you want. If you're, yeah, I think it's about honesty. If, you know, you can almost say, what motor do I want? And then just go one turn back from that. I think would be a fair way to start.
What motor are you running?
I have a 7.5 in my two-wheel. that's what I run. I mean, and I've been running that motor for 2 years now. And it really unwinds, you know, like the Ohio RC factory with a 130-foot straightaway or whatever the heck they got. You know, and I just, without trying to seem self-important or bragging, like I've just got a really good trigger finger. And I guarantee you that, like out here, you'll see me drive and you'll be like, there's no way that's a 7.5. You know, until I pull off some stupid jump or go down the straightaway and, like, if my car actually finds purchase, you know, and it can go. But that's developed, like I said, I've been doing this for 16 years. I kind of know where my limits are and what my strengths are. And my trigger finger is one of them.
I, on the other hand, am a 17.5 blinky guy.
You know,
if you've ever seen the video of me driving, you'll understand why. But
I would say, like, I think it's a good idea. You know, say, all right, Mayfield's running a 7.5. Like, I want a 7.5. Go get yourself an 8.5. And, like, keep in mind that with modern Speedos, you can always add timing in. You can always boost it a little bit. You can always gear up a tooth. Like, you can find ways to get more speed when you're comfortable with it. But I think kind of taking that step down is good for a lot of guys. If I had like a 10-year-old kid come up to me at the track and say, Paul, I want to be the next Ryan Cavalieri, right? Like, that's my goal, and I'm willing to dedicate my life to that. I would say, first, you need to be at the track every day. Second, you need to get a two-wheel drive mod buggy with an 8.5 in it. And money. And third, well, and you just need to run the crap out of it, maintain it when it, you know. There's kind of a famous story for me, not famous like for other people, but it sticks out in my head. The first time, so we signed Brian Kinwald, and he lived in Tucson at the time, raced at Competition Hobbies in Tucson. The first time I ever went out there, right, and like I was going out to Cactus, and I flew out there like a week early to spend time with Brian at Competition, right, like amazing opportunity. And I'll never forget that I walked in the first day, I charged up my battery, I was ready to go. He handed me a set of tires and said, come back to me when these are bald. And that was it. That's what I did the first day. I just ran packs until those tires were bald, right? And he's like, you need to get used to the dirt and the track and blah, 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 you know. And so, you know, for someone who's looking for the ultimate speed, I think that two-wheel drive modified, two-wheel drive open buggy will teach you driving skills the fastest. There's a reason that if you look at the top results of 8-scale, if you look at the top results of electric racing, like all those guys came up with two-wheel drive buggy. You go, you know, look through Tebow's history, look through Cav Mayfield, you look through Dustin Evans. Like all those guys got their start. The only one that I can think about that breaks that rule is Cody King, who started racing 8-scale and is somehow fast in electric too.
Adam Drake was an electric racer for
yep,
a long
Adam
time.
Drake raced in Michigan and Columbus for a long time. So I think, you know, get a two-wheel drive mod. If you're looking for the best practice and the best way to get faster, get a two-wheel drive mod car with an 8.5 and just run it until the wheels are bald.
What motor do you run in your buggy?
Either a 7.5 or an 8.5.
Chris, motor in your buggy?
3.5. No, just kidding. But I also want to add something.
Sure. No, what are you running? 10.5. 10.5?
Go ahead.
Like I said earlier, we'll get to your question in a minute, that I got 3